How's it going? My name is Nat Zappia, and I am with I'm the director of the Institute for Sustainability at CSUN. And I'm here with co-hosting with Sarah Johnson, the program analyst at the Institute. She's been here at the Institute since the beginning, since 12 years ago, correct? And that is when the first Water Day happened. It's about 12 years ago. Is that correct, Sarah?
Yep. This is our 11th Water Day, yeah.
Wow. And we'll also hear Natale Schneider's also a co-host with us with sustainability in the Department of Planning and Facilities and PPM. Is it planning and, I'm sorry, I've done so many Zoom. I'm fumbling over with the
physical planning.
Facilities, planning, design, and construction.
Excellent, thank you.
Yeah.
And thank you, Tracie. And Tracie Tung, a professor who I'm going to introduce in a second. I'm going to read her bio, and she's going to be talking today. But before we begin, we just want to tell you a little bit about the Institute. For those of you who it's the first time you're learning about us, or if you're in some of our local high schools, thanks for coming. The Institute's been around, as I said, since 2008. And we work with facilities with Nikhil and Austin Erickson's office to help implement sustainability projects on campus, but the Institute in particular is focused on education and curriculum and ideas and thinking about and inspiration, really getting, especially for the young folks out there, getting them to think about the future and think about it through a sustainable lens, which this is something that we're really thinking about now in this crazy, extraordinary historical moment. So we think it's actually a perfect time to talk about Water Day, because we know before this crisis, we still have a water crisis in California in particular, and we know a lot about the fires and I'm sure you've read that the fires of the past couple of years that have swept across the state have also shaped our emergency preparedness in ways that it hasn't in other parts of the country, and in some ways it has helped. Well, I guess we'll see what happens once we're beyond this curve, but it has helped the state prepare for this emergency. And so it's important to keep thinking about the drought and thinking about water and thinking about how we use it. And I think it's also even more appropriate to talk and think about fashion and its intersection with sustainable fashion, which Tracie's, who I'm going to introduce right now, is going to talk about. So I'm going to read an introduction, and then we're going to show two short clips that it will help frame our conversation around fast fashion and sustainable fashion. And then I'm going to have Tracie and I are going to have a conversation, and she's going to share some of her really fascinating research projects and some of the stuff she's doing at CSUN and some of the things that we're collaborating on at CSUN as well. And then we'll open up the questions, and feel free to either, it's a pretty not too big of a group. Feel free to jump in and ask a question during or after the talk, or you could type it in the chat area, and we'll pick it up and ask for you. So, all right, Tracie Tung received her PhD in Design and Human Environment under the College of Business from Oregon State University. Her areas of expertise include consumer behavior, merchandising management, and e-commerce. Her research focuses on consumer decision-making, retail technology adoption, consumer attitudes and product attributes, marketing strategies, and sustainable consumption. After she received her master's degree in apparel design from Oregon State, she worked in the fashion industry for nearly 4 years. Before she joined CSUN, she taught marketing, introduction to the fashion industry, and international retailing in the business department of New York City College, New York Tech CUNY for 1 year. So Tracie, we're really honored and grateful that you're here today to talk with us. So before we begin though, let's, Sarah, if you don't mind, I'm going to kick off those two videos for us.
Yep, I'll start them now.
Great.
Classic white t-shirt. Annually, we sell and buy 2 billion t-shirts globally, making it one of the most common garments in the world. But how and where is the average t-shirt made? And what's its environmental impact? Clothing items can vary a lot, but a typical t-shirt begins its life on a farm in America, China, or India, where cotton seeds are sown, irrigated, and grown for the fluffy bolls they produce. Self-driving machines carefully harvest these puffs. An industrial cotton gin mechanically separates the fluffy bolls from the seeds, and the cotton lint is pressed into 225 kilogram bales. The cotton plants require a huge quantity of water and pesticides. 2,700 liters of water are needed to produce the average t-shirt, enough to fill more than 30 bathtubs. Meanwhile, cotton uses more insecticides and pesticides than any other crop in the world. These pollutants can be carcinogenic, harm the health of field workers, and damage surrounding ecosystems. Some t-shirts are made of organic cotton, grown without pesticides and insecticides, but organic cotton makes up less than 1% of the 22.7 million metric tons of cotton produced worldwide. Once the cotton bales leave the farm, textile mills ship them to a spinning facility, usually in China or India, where high-tech machines blend, card, comb, pull, stretch, and finally twist the cotton into snowy ropes of yarn called slivers. Then yarns are sent to the mill, where huge circular knitting machines weave them into sheets of rough grayish fabric, treated with heat and chemicals until they turn soft and white. Here, the fabric is dipped into commercial bleaches and azo dyes, which make up the vivid coloring in about 70% of textiles. Unfortunately, some of these contain cancer-causing cadmium, lead, chromium, and mercury. Other harmful compounds and chemicals can cause widespread contamination when released as toxic wastewater in rivers and oceans. Technologies are now so advanced in some countries that the entire process of growing and producing fabric barely touches a human hand, but only up until this point. After the finished cloth travels to factories, often in Bangladesh, China, India, or Turkey, human labor is still required to stitch them up into t-shirts. Intricate work that machines just can't do. This process has its own problems. Bangladesh, for example, which has surpassed China as the world's biggest exporter of cotton t-shirts, employs 4.5 million people in the t-shirt industry, but they typically face poor conditions and low wages. After manufacture, all those t-shirts travel by ship, train, and truck to be sold in high-income countries, a process that gives cotton an enormous carbon footprint. Some countries produce their own clothing domestically, which cuts out this polluting stage. But generally, apparel production accounts for 10% of global carbon emissions. And it's escalating. Cheaper garments and the public's willingness to buy boosted global production from 1994 to 2014 by 400% to around 80 billion garments each year. Finally, in a consumer's home, the t-shirt goes through one of the most resource-intensive phases of its lifetime. In America, for instance, the average household does nearly 400 loads of laundry per year, each using about 40 gallons of water. Washing machines and dryers both use energy, with dryers requiring 5 to 6 times more than washers. This dramatic shift in clothing consumption over the last 20 years, driven by large corporations and the trend of fast fashion, has cost the environment, the health of farmers, and driven questionable human labor practices. It's also turned fashion into the second largest polluter in the world after oil. But there are things we can do. Consider shopping secondhand. Try to look for textiles made from recycled or organic fabrics. Wash clothes less and line dry to save resources. Instead of throwing them away at the end of their life, donate, recycle, or reuse them as cleaning rags. And finally, you might ask yourself, how many t-shirts and articles of clothing will you consume over your lifetime? And what will be their combined impact on the world? When we produce TED-Ed videos about the environment, We often think about the young people who subscribe to this channel and how unfair it is that you're inheriting environmental problems that were probably set into motion long before you were born. The good news is that we see students everywhere making moves to meet the world's biggest challenges head on. For example, in TED-Ed's Student Voice program, sustainability has emerged as a topic of choice in thousands of presentations given by students throughout the world. You can watch their talks on the TED-Ed Club's YouTube channel, and you can learn more about the program by visiting ed.ted.com/clubs. As always, thanks for watching.
All right. So we're going to watch one more clip that actually Tracie had recommended. But before Sarah setting that up really quick, I just wanted, apologies, Nikhil. I also wanted to let you know that, so this is today is it's a 2-session day. So we have our first session is right now with Tracie, and then at 12:30, Nikhil is going to be talking about water and electricity at CSUN. So for those of you who are CSUN students or faculty or staff, and most of us on this call are, you'll be really interested to hear what's happening on campus, how PPM has really made great strides to reduce our energy and water consumption. And I think this is really particularly water, one of the points of pride. I think that hopefully you'll stick around. That'll be at 12:30. So, all right, go ahead, Sarah. Thank you.
What do you think when you hear the word polyester? 70s leisure suits? Sweaty smelling dress shirts? That's what polyester used to be. These days, everybody wears it. Yoga pants, fleeces, even underwear. All made from synthetic fabrics like polyester. More polyester means more demand for the stuff used to make polyester. But you don't have to use new stuff to make it. Some companies are making polyester out of old stuff, plastic bottles, in fact. Every day, the world throws away billions and billions of plastic bottles. That's a problem. Of course, the real solution is that we all use less plastic. But it's cool that even while we work to reduce plastic, some companies are turning trash into stuff we actually like. Drink it, drop it in the bin, take it to a recycling factory, chop it up, weave it, wear it, wash it, wear it again, wash it again. Seems like a great solution, right? When we look closer, there are some real problems with this. The big problem is that some people might be encouraged to use more disposable plastic if they think it's being recycled safely. But there's also a little problem, a micro problem that's adding up to one big mess. Every time we wash synthetic fabrics, whether they're made from recycled bottles or brand new materials, super tiny pieces of plastic called microfibers wash off and flow down the drain. Up to hundreds of thousands each wash. The older our clothes get, the worse the problem can become. Yikes! These fibers are so tiny, water treatment plants don't catch them all, so they wind up in rivers, lakes, and even the ocean. When they reach the ocean, they act like sponges, sucking up other pollutants around them. They're like little toxic bombs full of motor oil, pesticides, and industrial chemicals that end up in the bellies of fish, and eventually in the bellies of us. It's gross. It's already estimated there are 1.4 million trillion in our oceans. That's like 200 million microfibers for every person on the planet. These are some serious downsides to what looked like a good solution. Time for these creative companies to go back to the drawing board. Because while we can wash our clothes less or avoid buying synthetic clothing, we can't solve the problem without them. And if we want these companies to make it a top priority, they need to hear from you. Let's find a real solution to make our clothes safe for the environment, safe for the ocean, and safe for us.
That's good music for that. Okay, perfect kickoff. So I think hopefully that helped us frame some of what you're all, just give you a sense of some of the things we're going to be talking about today. And again, Tracie, thank you for coming today. Thank you for
having me.
So maybe you could just tell us a little bit maybe start off about you and your research. I read your bio, and you have experience in industry and you know, and in the market, right, marketplace, as you will, and in academia. So you can tell us a little bit about your interests and yeah, and then we can talk more about sustainable fashion. It's kind of a background, how you got here, and what, you know, what brought you to this, to thinking about sustainable fashion.
Well, I was interested in fashion. That's why I picked apparel design as my master's degree's focus. So I spent 2 years and working on apparel design program. And after that, I worked in the industry for almost 4 years, right? I actually did my first internship at Columbia Sportswear Company, which is an outdoor brand. And then I work as a fashion designer in the fashion industry, and I do women's wear and casual wear and business wear. And to me, I think at one point I feel like the more you know, the more I learned about the fashion industry, the more I feel like there are so many things that haven't been taught, or in my like when I was a student, I have never learned about. It's sort of like learning. We all see the bright side, the glamour side of fashion, of the fashion industry, but we never really talked about the dark side. So while I was working in the industry and get to know more about the industry, I learned about the dark side of the fashion industry, and to me, that's very important. So after I become a professor, I teach fashion in the fashion department. So I want my students to know both the bright side and the dark side of the industry. Yeah, so that's what where I got interested in the topic of sustainability and fashion. So I actually started to learn about or do research on consumers' attitude. Because I don't know anything about that, right? So I'm interested in what's the general consumer's attitude toward this type of topic and how they select the product. So that's the first part of my research project. But recently, I'm actually thinking to go to a different direction to see how we can help to educate our consumers and maybe help them to maybe change their behavior and help them to be a more sustainable consumer. So that would be the future direction I want to go.
Yeah. Wow. So, and maybe you could, so your experience is not, and it's fascinating to think about the dark side, right? This is something that consumers, as you know, don't like to think about, and students involved in fashion, you see that as a mission, which is really important. In the marketplace, I mean, has it changed? Do you see the producers or the folks you've interacted with or worked with adopting or addressing some of these sustainability issues?
Yes. I think now people are more aware about this issue, and I think the major force that makes company realize that they need to do something, it's actually from consumers. So now there is a study that was saying that millennials, these new generation, younger generations, they are more they have a higher sustainability concerns. Like they care about environment and this issue. So I think our consumer is changing, so that the company needs to do something to make sure that they are meeting consumer standard, consumers' expectation. But in the reality, that's not enough, right? And so we need to help more people to understand this issue so that and we can push companies to do things correctly. And I know 10 years ago, many big companies are doing a lot to address these issues. Like Levi's actually did a study about their jeans, how much energy they need, how much water they need to produce a pair of jeans. And they publish this report to public. So it's good that they are willing to share the information and face the truth that, maybe the downside of their during their production process and what they need to do to improve. And many companies now, they have an office for, they have a code of conduct, and they have an office sustainability team to focus on monitoring the production process in maybe labor environment, worker safety, and hazard material use. So I see more and more companies are putting efforts in this direction.
Yeah. So do you think, so maybe you could talk a little bit about these numbers you mentioned in Levi's, just to give us I know we watched this video, but just to give us a sense of what it takes, right, to produce. And we got some chat questions too that will come up, we'll ask as well. But give us a sense of what it takes to produce something, numbers, or how, just give us a sense of that magnitude.
Yeah, sure. So, well, according to their statistic, well, they analyzed water use and energy use and carbon dioxide emission, right? So to transform the use a lay people term, it would take, just for one pair of the 501 genes, just one pair, the water it has to use to produce that one pair of genes is equivalent to running a garden hose for 106 hours. Just imagine that you leave your garden hose running for 106 hours. That's how much water we need to produce one gene. And the energy we need to use is equivalent to, it's like power a computer for 556 hours. And the carbon dioxide emission, that's equivalent to driving 78 miles. Wow. So those are the numbers. They actually, they did a very good job in the report and switch those statistical term to more friendly, public friendly terms. Yeah, so that's a number they published.
I mean, that's stunning, right? To think about that impact, because I think we're more familiar with the food miles or the, if you turn the light out kind of thing, or but fashion, it's and clothing. Even when we think of clothing, at least before I talked to you, we learned about your research. To me, that I was aware of the labor piece, and even some of the supply chain, like the fossil fuels that are burnt to ship stuff, but not even thinking about consumption itself, and and the CO2, the water and all these things. I want to return to some questions, but I see we got some good questions here. I'll read to you. So one of them is, can you speak to the clothing that is by its nature temporary? So maternity, nursing, baby clothes. It seems that some of this lies within this fast fashion category. Maybe you could talk a little bit more about fast fashion too. I mean, we've been touching on that. And this is actually, this is a question I wanted to ask related to this idea of informal clothing swaps, wearing clothes more than one day. We've talked about that, and some of the things I know you've been working on, initiatives around that. And then someone asked about diapers too. So if you know anything about that kind of anything around that, not what do you do about the necessary disposable kinds of things? And I know Sarah, actually, maybe Sarah could jump in at some point to talk about the sustainable menstruation initiatives that we've been doing. But go ahead.
This is great. Maybe it's because my personal background and the people I work with, they are students. So this is not a topic or category I have thought about.
Yeah.
This will be a good research direction. Thank you for for the idea. Yeah. That's very good. So I'm gonna talk about fast fashion because that's a topic we see a lot among younger students, right? Among students, because first of all, they are affordable. And as we know, like when we were young, we started to build our self-image. And a lot of time you look at your reference group, like your friend, peers, and celebrities to get an idea what kind of image you would like to present to others, right? So fast fashion, so let's talk about why they are fast fashion. Because in general, when we are going to produce a new collection or new line, we usually, the production time is 52 weeks. So that's a year. We use a year to work on this, and usually we have 4 new collection launches, spring, summer, fall, and winter. That's when we deliver and have a new product in stores. But fast fashion changed the entire production cycle. They are able to produce new product in like 4 weeks.
Wow.
So they shorten this production cycle, and then they update their product assortment in store like every week.
Yeah.
So that's actually amazing. If when you talked about how they can put different factory in all the different countries, and how they can collaborate and optimize their supply chain connection to make this happen. Because you might have the cotton that is growing in India, and you have a factory in China, and you have a store in Spain, right? So that's actually quite amazing how they can manage to connect all these different dots in the world and then send the product to store to our consumers. Hello?
Oh, sorry, I got it. By the way, I apologize if, of course, my internet connection is a little unstable, but I'm listening. If I do jump, if for some reason I get disconnected, Sarah will jump in. Sorry, Sarah.
Got you.
You have to do that.
Got you.
So
so we see a lot. Now one of the biggest problem in the industry, it's not the factory or companies anymore, it's consumers. We buy way too much, and we toss way too much. So in terms of some numbers I can give you, every second, one garbage trunk of clothing is going landfill every second.
Wow.
That's how much we toss. Yeah, so that's the thing. I think if you could work with your friends, your own community, create something like the swap idea, or exchange or recycle the product, especially this one short-term use, temporary use products, maternity items, and baby clothes. That's actually a very good idea, and you can help to expand the program, maybe make it a community level event.
So that's actually I love it. So these are some of the questions that people are curious about, and this actually leads into what we're collaborating on between you and the Institute, and what we're thinking about. Someone had asked about what we're doing at CSUN. Are there any classes? What are we thinking? You know, any curriculum? So that's exactly what we're. So maybe tell everybody what we're thinking about and some of the ideas that we've been proposing and applying for funding for.
Okay, so as we see it in the video and what we talked about the company's behavior and consumers' behavior, you realize one thing, that consumers is really important in this game.
Yeah.
So for me, it's really all about education. I believe people care. People do care about our planet and the environment. But maybe sometimes they don't know about the huge impact from those activities.
Yeah.
So Nat and I, we are thinking to create a fashion sustainability ambassadors program. We would like to create a short term, it's like 1 year, two semester program to focus on sustainability issues in the fashion industry. We would like to introduce or educate our participants what are the different issues you see in the fashion industry that have huge impact on the environment, and what we can do to reduce that impact. So that's the program we are thinking. Nat, would like to?
Yeah. Well, I think first of all, it's a wonderful idea. And I know this builds on what you've done with the sustainable fashion show. I think you did that. Was it last year when you had done that?
In a different institution.
Oh, different.
Before I came to CSUN, yeah.
Sure. So maybe, I mean, so that was one of the ideas that I think was so important, like kind of making it hip, if you will, to engage in this kind of different kind of alternative consumption of clothing, right? I think that is what to me is the most interesting, and to get ambassadors, like you said, to get the students who will create a culture around that is how we were thinking about that. We've also, since we started thinking about this program, we've been invited to take part in the first year, so first year programming at CSUN. There's common classes that all the freshmen, groups of freshmen cohorts take together. It's different. There's different themes, and they get to pick a theme. So they kind of experience this, over their first year together. And so some version of the sustainable fashion certificate program it's going to be offered for first year students. So we see this, I mean, as Tracie has already alluded to, the importance of education around consumption, because happens so, like you said, the clothing gets produced so quickly. The machine around it is so rapid that it's like our brain, cognitively, we can't even respond, or it's like a tidal wave of consumption that you just kind of, it's really hard to stop and think about it. So I think what you're doing is so important. Wow, we got a lot of questions here. This is great. Let me just start with a couple here. So someone had asked about maybe talk about some sustainable fashion brands. Like it says, do you think sustainable fashion brands such as Reformation and Redone are actually legit? Are they making a difference? And then also a related question, and then I'll let you answer that. And then, do you know is it true if most online store returns end up in the landfill? And then it's like, I'll put it in 3 questions in one package. How does fast fashion relate to sustainability? So, and you kind of talked on about this. So how does fashion relate to sustainability, and maybe some of these brands that are doing a good job, and how can we, like for food, I'm most interested in most cognizant of food packaging and the people who take advantage of that. What's organic? What does it mean when you see something that says naturally raised? It's like, doesn't mean anything, right? So how can we combat those kinds of tricks, if you will, those advertising tricks? So if you want to answer a few of those, then we'll jump in, because questions keep coming. This is great.
Okay, so let's talk about brand first. Well, so like I said, there are many brands are working on this to make their production process more sustainable. And so one thing you can do is, well, transparency now is actually very important to our consumers. When you go to a website, when you go shopping, I don't know if you have noticed that now companies give you those numbers. Oh, when you purchase this item, these are the carbon emissions we have during production, and if you buy this T-shirt from us, you save the planet, save the water by how many, those numbers, those statistics. So companies are trying to make their production process more transparent. They let you know, okay, you are a part of this mission and you are helping to save the planet. So compared to some companies, they don't give you this information, maybe pick some company that's more transparent. And the other one is, there is a certificate now in the fashion industry. We have a corporate B. So when you look at the logo, it's a circle and there is a letter B in the center, at the center. So that's the logo they have for that certificate. So any company that got this, they receive this logo, that means they have been following the regulation, the policy, how to make the company more sustainable through the company, the certificate company. So that's another indicator you can use to pick the brand. So that's one. And the other thing is, as a consumer, I think you can change your shopping habit too. Buy less and choose those more those natural fibers like cotton, flax, silk, wool, those type of product, and buy more classic styles so that you can wear the clothes longer. So those are the tips we can, as a consumer, we can do. And the other question is about fast fashion.
I think you touched on. You covered that.
What's the
it's
other
funny because one of the
question
comments, about like Amazon or online. I mean, you kind of touched on that. It was about the returns. When you return let's say you order something online, like this shirt doesn't fit, I return it. Does it just go to the landfill? Do you know if that's, are there policies
return
around?
To go to, well, it really depends on the policy of the company, but in general, I haven't read any news about going to landfill. Like in the fashion industry for those apparel,
it's not like food
apparel product.
Right.
Food or something. Once you open it, you cannot recycle it anymore for safety issue, and that's probably the case. In the fashion industry, I have not seen
that's not one of the
something
issues.
like this, unless it's damaged.
Right.
Or
that's interesting. So it's almost like an opportunity to it could be another research area to think what happens to those, because there's probably an enormous amount of what's the second life of these products. Might be an interesting, even an interesting opportunity for companies to tout as a sustainable practice of some sort. All right, so there's a lot more questions. Good. So this is actually a question about CSUN again, from Jacqueline. It says, a related question. I see department purchase volunteer shirts. That's right. There's lots of, since I started CSUN, I was actually just mentioning this the other day. I'm like, wow, I got a lot of t-shirts from different institutes and different events. So the question was just, are we encouraging departments to reuse those shirts for future events? This is almost like a suggestion. Maybe it's something we should really start thinking about. Unless maybe you have already. But and it says, doesn't make sense for us to pay for the custom design of a shirt and give them away, especially when we're doing it. We talk about equity and we talk about some of these, even the sustainability. I have a sustainability institute. We have shirts, you know, we try to be cognizant of, we don't print out anything. You know, I very rarely print anything out, but we do have the tote bags and we do have the swag we give out every now and then. So maybe is this something that you have thought about or departments have thought about, or maybe it's something that could be another part of the sustainability ambassador program as well, the sustainable fashion ambassador program as well. Any thoughts about that?
From my perspective, to be a responsible citizen in this
Yeah.
planet, we do need to rethink the way we consume products.
Yeah.
So one thing I always tell my students, because I teach in the fashion program, so apparel design and merchandising, I have the opportunity to teach students from this in apparel design and merchandising, right? So a lot of them in the future, they are going to work in the industry, and one day in the future, they are going to be the leader or the important decision maker. So I want them to keep this in mind, like you need to design something that keep the product, the depth of the product in mind. Yeah. You need to put that concept into your product design process. In the past, as a designer, we don't think about how our consumer is going to handle this product. And when they don't want the product anymore, how they are going to handle the product. We never thought about that. We focus on design the product that consumer likes, consumer will buy, right? But now I try to tell this is the new direction I want to go. I want to tell my students that, you know, whenever you design something, you become a product developer, you need to focus on, you need to add one more step, how your consumer are going to use how they can handle the product after they don't want the product anymore. Yeah. So I think this can reflect, this idea can be used to the departments or clubs. Yeah. Like when you design those t-shirts or tote bags, think about how people are going to use them and how long can you extend the lifespan of the product. Like Nat just mentioned, maybe we keep the design simple. And we can use it in every event during the year. Yeah. And as a designer, of course, what we just talked about, you select natural fiber material that's better for the environment. For nylon or polyester, they are basically plastic, because the raw material is from petroleum. Yeah. So they are basically plastic. Yeah. Right. So when you are thinking about develop some product, select the right material and think about how your consumer can use it for a long time. And maybe for yourself too, it can save the department a lot of money, because now you only need one t-shirt for all the events. Right. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I always think of going to conferences where, especially around sustainability or food. I mean, until recently, conferences were vectors of waste, you know, from a lot of throwaway stuff. And it hasn't been until pretty recently where academics, at least academic conferences, have really tried to incorporate that practice. But this is something I think I see fashion as you do, obviously, as really another, almost a deeper level, because it's such, you have to wear clothes every day, right? It's like, and I like how you framed it, extending, you have to think about the depth of the product, right? And extending that lifespan as much as possible. Oh, well, we got so many good questions here. So here's two related questions. And I'm just going down the list, everybody. So hopefully we'll get to everybody. So it says, it asks about Goodwill. Is that like a good place for donating clothes? Is it like and also purchasing clothes? Is this a good example of recycling and being engaging in sustainable fashion practices. And then someone says, hi, Tracy. And then Eduardo. And then Janet asks, with the stores closed now, and this is a question I wanted to ask you, what are the opportunities? Well, she asked, what's going to happen to the spring fashion inventory, right? And, you know, you have the LA, New York, Paris, LA, that kind of thing. How is that going to change the whole fashion industry? I think that she's asking. But also, like, I'm curious to what you think. What are this crisis we're in? How is it going to? We had a conversation yesterday with a historian about farming, the food system, and how that's going to reboot and really shake the foundations of the food system. This coronavirus, this pandemic. So is it going to be the same kind of thing, same kind of reckoning, or same kind of reimagining in fashion?
Okay. So for the first question about goodwill.
Yeah.
Well, this one, I don't know. I think for me, they are a good place to donate our clothes. But of course, there should be more places that you can do that. I haven't really looked into this direction, but maybe if we do an online search, we can find some institutions, organizations, they would take old clothes as well.
Yes,
and I do have I did an interview about online shopping, and I won a long time ago, 10 years ago. I did a focus group, and I separated female student and a male student because I want to do the comparison to see how they see online shopping. So I have a male student in the male focus group. In that group, one student said that he actually will buy everything online, but not clothes, because he doesn't care, and he always just get his T-shirt from Goodwill and something. Right. And to me, I think that's not a bad idea. Yeah. So that's what I learned from. We do have consumers; they actually go to Goodwill to get stuff. So I think that's one of the way to support this type of business.
I'm actually one of those consumers. I love Goodwill for that, or any kind of thrift store. I love the idea of once you clean the shirt, it's like a story. You're taking part in this larger narrative rather than something that's just And someone had mentioned it about go ahead. Sorry. Go ahead. Someone had mentioned about our parents and grandparents used clotheslines in the 50s and 60s. It's, this idea of old-fashioned, just kind of that goes hand in hand with this idea of making clothes last longer, and there's more of a different kind of a personal relationship with the clothes, right? That could actually be more interesting and definitely more creative, right?
That's actually something I want to touch on when we talked about the impact we have, or the impact we will get for the fashion on the fashion industry, especially their next season collection, right? So to me, I think like this old clothes our grandpa, grandma have. I had this conversation with fashion professionals about quality of our clothes, and we agree on the fact that it's so difficult to find good quality clothes nowadays. You don't see when we go to the shop, or when we go to the stores, and when we buy clothes, those products don't show the quality they were in the past. So that's something I think the fashion companies just need to rethink about their production. And for me, for consumers, we need to start to think about how we can expand the life cycle of our clothes and treat our clothes as artwork. Really, after I learned how to sew, I feel like, that's after I finish, that's an artwork. It's an artwork. So we need to show out more appreciation to those products and cherish those products. So that's, I think that's one thing those companies, fashion companies, they need to think about. Because now, like when I think about, oh, I need something, I like this t-shirt. I saw this great t-shirt online. I really like it. But at this point, feel like, okay, I don't need this t-shirt because I already have many t-shirts. I don't need it. And I need to save more money because there are so many uncertainties under this situation. Right. So I think definitely fashion industry will be impacted by this consumer change in terms of their shopping behavior, the money spending behavior. So I hope this will push them to a different direction, that now think more about the quality of clothes. And because to me, now I see myself thinking, okay, so if I can wear this for a long time, then probably, yes, now it's a difficult time, but I can still buy this because I will use this for a long time. It will be a good investment. That's investment,
I mean, it actually leads beautifully into this comment from Amy. She said that she had recently made a t-shirt quilt for many years of CSUN events and AIDS walk t-shirts. Gave new life to shirts I don't wear anymore. To your point about art, right? It's a piece of art, but also a memory/legacy quilt of my life at CSUN. That's beautiful. So she says Project Repad is an American company that also makes these quilts. So hopefully, I think we're going to try to get Amy's. We'll try to post it on our website, an image of that quote. So thanks for that, Amy. So someone asked, and you kind of touched on this. You mentioned how we should buy less. You just mentioned that right now, and this. So you answered that. Do you think the current situation will help? And you said that. Someone said life cycle costing with a smile. I'm missing that one, but I guess it's kind of, maybe you could elaborate a little bit on that one, and we'll come back to that. We have a question regarding the comparison of using. Someone asked about that, about the cloth diapers versus disposable diapers. So this is a kind of a larger question here. But what do we do to be sustainable? Use a lot of water. Contribute. Let me actually come back. Oh, here's a question about H&M. Do you think it's impossible for you just mentioned this, how you hope the industry shifts gears? It's going to have to in some ways. But do you think, Eileen asked, do you think it's possible for fast fashion companies like Forever 21 and H&M to switch their supply chain? The supply chain it's so embedded, right? It's such a part of the, it's like a big Titanic ship, right? Everything's going to turn, but how long or how disruptive, I guess, is maybe, if you had a crystal ball and you could imagine what it's going to look like, at least in terms of the supply chain, what do you think might happen at least in the short term and the long term?
Well, I think in general, there are two reasons that result in a company's new policy. One is government regulation. Second one is consumer. So is it possible for fast fashion company to switch to more sustainable supply chain? I think consumer at this point will play a more important role in the process. Consumer needs to tell the companies that they want something comes from more sustainable practice. And buy less is they produce way more product we need. So I don't know if you have heard about this. H&M actually, they throw away those leftovers, the garments they couldn't sell, and or burned those garments because nobody buys it, and they can, like Burberry too. Actually, Burberry do that too. Yeah. And for Burberry, I understand because they are a luxury brand. They want to make sure that they keep a certain identity, brand identity. Yeah. Right. So for those leftover products, they won't be able to donate to people because that's their product identity, brand identity. For H&M, they did the same thing too. So I think a consumer needs to express their thought about this, their opinion, so a company knows, okay, so they need to do a better job in maybe predicting how many garments they can produce every year. That will be enough and efficient for them to sustain a company's profit and meet their consumers' needs.
I think, and this is what you're saying right now is really in line with some of these last comments here. Dev had mentioned when he mentioned his life cycle cycling, to consider all the aspects. I guess what his point was of the products, right? This is what's so fascinating about sustainable or thinking about fashion. It's like food, and that there's so many facets to it. From the infrastructure to the energy to the water to the labor to the product that you're using, to the recycling of it. I mean, it's almost endless. It's overwhelming. You think of all the threads, if you will, to that. But and I think everyone agrees with you here, that because sometimes we think, oh, the consumer is that gets thrown around a lot, right? Oh, consumer has power, and it's like thinking of energy, for instance, as drivers, right? Oh, we have power to buy our consumer powers are, what car we buy, but for many of us, that's just not, we don't have much leverage there, right? For fashion, it seems like it's a food as well, but I think fashion in particular, because of the nature of the industry, and correct me if I'm wrong, it seems like, and this is what you're saying, is there is actually consumer power is as important as policy from below, the government power, right? Whereas energy infrastructure is a little bit different. I think it seems a little more flexible, a little more dynamic, the fashion industry in that way. Would you agree?
Yeah, definitely, because we need clothes, and their ultimate goal is to sell their product to us. Right. So if we don't buy it, they won't be able to sustain the business. So I think that you're correct that in that sense, consumers in the fashion industry do have a certain power that can influence companies' policy making and decision making.
Well, I have one there's one question, comment I wanted to just ask you, comment/question to share with you from the audience here, and then it's 12 o'clock, so I want to value your time and everyone's time, so we'll get off after. But this is really a question I'm really interested in right now, actually, thinking about the role of, not that I don't have any luxurious anything, but the idea of luxury brands, right? And it's scarcity, right? Luxury can sometimes be, it's an amorphous definition, luxury, but the role of luxury, or even historically, what that means in terms for scarcity and sustainability. So I had a question about it says, or a comment saying, a lot of luxury brands burn their products, as you mentioned, to basically keep the value high, right? It's kind of like oil. The OPEC nations, they hold their oil you know, they basically manipulate the market. What do you see about the future of luxury? I mean, this is kind of a big question, or, you know, as in terms of fashion, or what, what are your thoughts? I mean, not a prediction, just what are your thoughts of how that might change the idea of luxury itself?
So in the Burberry's case, burning those products, it's bad for them too. Like, while they spend, well, first of all, that's company budget, right? That means you spend so much time, cost money to produce the product that you cannot sell. So that definitely would has a damage to the company's management. And for brand image, consumers learned about this, and now they don't think this is it right. They don't think this is the right thing to do. So now maybe they change their perception toward this company. They don't. They might dislike this brand, right? So that's risky. And to me, I think company, they need to do a better job in terms of understand the consumers' need and how many units they need to produce. But I recently read the news about luxury shopping behavior. That because after this lockdown, the city, this quarantine and city lockdown, they opened the market. And now there is a new behavior we call revenge shopping, because you couldn't shopping for a long time. And they opened the store, and the sales in the luxury brand store reached the historical high because this revenge shopping. So I really think the consumers really need to rethink about their shopping behavior.
Well, on that note, Tracie, thank you so much for your time. This is a fascinating discussion, and we're really honored to have you here and looking forward to working together on the other side of this Corona curve.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, so that's an honor. Thanks everyone for coming. We'll see you at the, if you all would like to join us at 12:30 with for Natale's talk, and we'll have this Zoom recording on our website, posted on our website, so feel free to circulate it. So thanks again, Tracie.
Thank you.
Okay, see you soon. Bye-bye.